Have you ever tried to break someone's limb and actually want to try to break it in the moment? Well, I have. So let's talk about that. Before we get into the top 3 times I would say I have injured somebody by trying to break a joint, a leg, a ligament, an arm, I want to provide some context. This is within the context of Brazilian jiu-jitsu competitions. So this is not in the training room. In the training room, the goals are to have everybody get better, to not get hurt, and to live to fight another day, and all this other stuff. In competitions, I would say those are always the goals too. There's a very distinct mindset shift that happens once the match starts. Before the match, I don't want to hurt anybody. When I go up against people who don't want to tap, which is the reality of higher level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitions, is people will not tap. If you are applying a submission and they think they can get out, it's like, no, I want to win. If there's something on the line, so they just won't submit. And so when that happens, you either have to continue to apply the submission, which will eventually break something to get them to tap out, or to get them disqualified because their joint is broken. And so you do win if you break it because the ref will stop it and you win. If I run into a situation like that, my game is structured to funnel towards choking submissions. So when you choke somebody, you don't break anything, they just pass out, and then you win because they fall asleep. So it doesn't matter if they don't tap, there's always that out. But every other submission that involves a joint lock or an attack on somebody's limbs is going to result in something getting broke if the person is just mentally strong enough to not tap. And sometimes you don't even need to be mentally strong. Well, you do need to be mentally strong, but you can be helped in not tapping by the adrenaline, the moment, thinking, oh, there's money on the line, or, there's my friends and everybody's watching. It's like you can get so caught up in the moment that it doesn't even hurt. You physically don't register the pain. So that's why it's important, in my opinion, to have an understanding of the positions, especially leg locks, just all joint locks in general. Know when you're in danger and just tap and respect that. If you're in a professional level grappling competition, you need to actually tap out. If you're going against someone, you can try to get out of it. Look, that's on everybody. That's the other side of this, is when people go to let's just say an expert level competition, so purple belt through black belt, people want to win. People want to really put their game to the test and see if they can come out on top. So they'll really try and not tap out if you apply a submission. So what happens is, when you step on the mat, beforehand, it's okay, we're all friends here. We're all, here to do this awesome sport. We're all here to try this out. I don't want to hurt anybody. So, here's my game plan, or whatever. But when you step on the mat, the mindset instantly shifts to, okay, we are now in a game, in a battle, where I am going to do every single thing I possibly can to try to get you to give up. And when it comes to applying submissions, it's if you're not going to tap in this game, I have to respect the fact that you're not tapping, and I have to continue to apply my submission. Now, I have been in some situations where I was applying a straight ankle lock and I felt the leg start to rip a little bit. This was at a more local competition, and I let go of the submission. I literally, tried to pass the guy's guard, because that's one of the things I like to do with leg locks. And I told him, I was like, dude, that's going to hurt in the morning. And I ended up not hurting him, I don't think, but, it started to rip a little bit. However, there was a competition at Sport Jiu-Jitsu Worlds where I was trying to leg lock somebody. And when I entered into that position, it was really funny. He said to his person on the sidelines, he doesn't have anything. I was attacking his leg. I was really trying to extend. And it hurts. It definitely hurts when you're applying a straight ankle lock. It wasn't quite enough to get the full submission. And so I think part of his strategy was to get me to give up. I didn't have the submission. Oh, he's got nothing. Ha. And so then I abandon it and then start to play his game, whatever that may be. But I knew, just from playing leg lock so much, is that even if they don't tap out, it still hurts a little bit. And I was like, I think I felt it pop a little bit. And so in my mind, while I was on the mat, while I was grappling, I was like, okay, good. If I did a little bit of damage to his leg, if we stand back up on the feet, his takedowns are not going to be as effective. He's not going to be as explosive, simply because there's a little bit of damage to that leg. But I continued to attack that same leg because I felt like I still had it. I ended up getting an Aoki lock, which is where it's it's technically a straight ankle lock. It was legal, but it did do some damage to his leg. Like I felt it rip, and in the moment, I was trying as hard as I can to actually apply that submission because we were in like a pretty high level competition. He verbally said to his corner, you know what? I left this part out. After he told his corner that I didn't have anything, I told him, because I talk to people when I grapple all the time. I was like, you know what, man? I was actually really trying for that. I'm surprised. I don't know if that's verbatim what I said, but I told him I was actually trying to go for that submission. And I felt surprised that he verbally said I didn't have anything because I was like, I'm pretty sure that hurt. So, anyways, I continued to apply the submission, and I applied as hard as I could because he verbally said I didn't have anything. I was like, okay, so I really, really got to get this guy if I'm going to get him. And so he ended up verbally submitting, and we stood up. He thought I heel hooked him, which I didn't. And this is where the mindset shifted. So right after the match was over, I no longer wanted to hurt him. I was like, we stood up. The refs were reviewing the footage. They were, trying to see what was going on. And I told him, I was like, hey man, I'm actually sorry about your leg. I wasn't, I hope I didn't hurt you. But, well, he told me that I heel hooked him. I said, no, I actually didn't. I know what a heel hook is. I'm like, sorry if I hurt your leg. I didn't want to, but I don't remember what I said all after that. But essentially, I tried to apologize because I didn't want to hurt his leg. And, it was, good on him for coming out here. And we shook hands. And that was sort of like, okay, mutual respect. Like, he didn't want to tap. And, it is what it is. And I definitely did some damage to his leg because if you watch he had a twin there too. So him and his twin, it was so confused. I was so confused seeing them walk around at the bleachers. But if you watch the footage, he starts to limp off a little bit. So I don't think I did like permanent damage to his leg. I hope I didn't. I hope he's still out there competing, grappling, getting better. But I definitely he's probably had some injury time. He probably had to recover from that, and that I feel bad. Like I didn't want to hurt him, but in the moment, I was excited. I was like, oh, yes, this is how we win the game. Let's go and apply. But then right after, it's like, oh, okay, how's your arm? Your leg? And so there was another time in my first, when I competed on flow grappling, I ended up winning with an armbar. And in the middle of my submission attempt, while I was applying the armbar, I was just thinking, I'm going to try to break his arm. And then I had him, there was no way, I didn't break his arm. And right after, we shook hands, we hugged a little bit, and I was like, is your arm okay? I asked him after the fact, and he's like, yeah, it's all good. And I felt relieved, but in the moment, while you're competing, you sort of I don't want to say you want to hurt these people, but you want to win, and the only way to win is to continue to apply the submission. I've never hurt anybody that bad. I've definitely damaged some people a little bit. I generally pride myself as being extremely controlled when it comes to submissions. I'll be extremely fast and aggressive when it comes to getting positions and being in control and being tight if I want. I might be slow or methodical, it depends. But I pride myself on being very particular about applying submissions and not hurting people, going very slow, catching them and letting them know that, okay, hey, I've got this. Even in competitions, I generally try to go for chokes just because, I think it's more effective. But I also try not to apply submissions to hurt people. However, I have seen many, many competition matches where I've seen people just get absolutely maimed. Like, one that comes to mind is when I was reffing. I was reffing a submission-only competition, and it was a blue belt match, so heel hooks were legal. And they each had a heel hook. It was, they sort of each had each other's heel, and they were both kind of reefing on it. Blue belts, man. And so I was looking at them, and I was like, that doesn't look too good. And it was way too long. Someone should have bailed, someone should have tapped, but they roll a little bit. They're each, bending each other's legs, and then it just goes, whoo! I see the leg go pop as the, tendons start to rip and the leg falls out of place, and the guy gets up and he starts limping. He's like, oh, yeah, I held on too long. I probably should have tapped. I'm like, yeah, bud, you probably should have tapped. And what hurt me, because I was the ref, and I was like, these guys are adults. I have to let them, if they're an adult, if they're out there trying to compete, it's like, if they don't want to tap, it's sort of on them. When you're reffing for the children, if their arm's super extended, you can stop. You can be like, all right, sorry, you're done. Your arm's too far out. And I like that because, sometimes the kids just, they don't know, which is fine. But sometimes the adults don't know. Well, I guess they do. And he stood up and he was limping. I was like, I should have tapped him. Like, yeah, you should have. And so that was really unfortunate. But to sum up this video, all these ramblings, all these stories, before competitions, especially in the training room, you never want to hurt anybody. You want to make your game plan in such a way that, you're not going to go out there and injure people. You want to respect people. You want to apply the submissions, and you want to give them a chance to tap, and you want to let them tap. But in a competition, when the match starts, the mindset is not on hurting people, but it is on winning the game. And sometimes winning the game involves applying a submission to its completion. And if they don't tap, that's on them. And then after, you're like, okay, hey, are you good? What's going on? Let me check up on you. But during the match, it's a different story. And that's why you have to be prepared to, give up to tap. And you really have to respect the positions in these, tournaments. Because if someone gets you in a compromising position, don't wait to see if they're going to break your arm. Just live to fight another day. So that's all I got. If you made it to this end of the video, drink kombucha. It's good for your tummy.